that little rattling sound.
It's great. It's great. And again, as someone who is wanting to sing, or if you're singing, it gives you something to do with your hands.
Yeah. We are back 2023 on the Voice Podcast, and starting with a bang. So we have today with us a new club forming its creation in the person of Riley Fitzgerald, Mason Forsey Mackinnon, and Joah Vaillancourt.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
So, and all of three of you, what you have in common is that you are all musicians, obviously, for a music club.
Yep.
Each of you having different paths, and of course, SLC students. And so let's start with a bit about the new creation of the music club. What's the goal behind of a club? What do you want to achieve with a club?
Well, pretty much the idea is when we started going to the open mics and stuff, we'd have people that would just show up, but they wouldn't play. And we know that they play instruments, but they'd be a bit nervous to do it.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is we're just trying to encourage musicians around the school to just pick up and play. Yeah. Realize that it's not as intimidating once you get up there. I mean, it might be intimidating, but to get through it, it's a really good feeling.
It is, and how I just want to come to that. You all have played at St. Lawrence so far.
Well, it's amazing. Yeah.
Well, last year was COVID time, so that was my first year, and we didn't get the chance to play in the pub, obviously, but now having this year and getting the chance to play, and it's such a good space too, and a big part of why we started the club is to get some traction going, to turn the pub and that space into like an event spot for musicians, get some Kingston bands to come down. So not just for SLC musicians, but for Kingston musicians, and we're really just trying to expand and make it a hotspot for
that's true. Like
music.
The Kingston music scene has a lot of artists always looking for a spot to play and to express their talent. And sometimes it's like difficult to find bookings around all those pubs, and they're already taken. You have to take weeks, sometimes months for some of them.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a level which you at this club which you should be in terms of musical talent?
I think anyone who's interested in music is welcome to join, especially because if you don't know much about music or don't have experience with music, but you're around people who are musicians, you're going to pick up what they're doing. Musicians instinctually teach each other, so even teach people who don't play music who are interested in music. So if someone tells me they're interested in playing guitar, I'm going to show them a few chords just to get them started, because that's all they need, and then they're on their own, and it's amazing because we act as a backing band for the pub. So if someone wants to come up and sing, they say, hey, can you guys learn the Bruno Mars song, or any song, some by Queen or something, and we'll learn it, and they'll be able to perform. And there's a lot less anxiety when you have a band or people to play with, when you're not alone on stage, it's welcoming, and I think that's important for musicians, because there's a lot of anxiety getting up on stage.
And when was for each of you the first time getting on stage, starting with you, Joah?
First time I was on stage. I took piano lessons when I was younger, and I used to go all to like these recitals where all the students would go into the church and we'd dress up all fancy and then we'd play. One time I got disqualified because the judges noticed that my book was upside down, my sheet music, and then they discovered that I couldn't read music, so I had to start from square one. So then I stopped taking piano lessons and just kind of started teaching myself because I was already playing by ear. But then my first real show, I would say, played in a jazz trio with my grandfather and this other guitar player when I was maybe 13 years old, and that was a really great experience. Play like cocktail parties and all these fancy events, and so he really taught me a lot, for sure.
That's amazing. And how about you, Mason? Your first ever stage experience?
I've got 3 answers for that.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense, but it will in a second. Before I was a musician, I made a very sad attempt at beatboxing when I was in grade 3. I'm not going to talk any more about that.
Can you give us a demonstration?
Yeah,
I do not. It's left my system. And then I was a cowbell player for my school band, and then I eventually realized, oh, I do like music, and then started learning and playing the guitar. So what I did was I learned the guitar without telling anybody for a year, and then went to the talent show and then played. And then everyone was like, wow, Mason, you play guitar and stuff. And that was pretty cool.
So, and how about you, Riley? Your first stage?
Well, I started playing music when I was 17, right out of high school. And it was at the same time I stopped playing hockey. And I had been playing hockey my whole life. So I was performing on large scales prior to this in a different way. I was still performing for a crowd, but as a hockey player. And so I was already quite comfortable with the concept, especially having a lot of eyes on me and having that type of pressure. I think I was 18 or no, I was 19 when I first performed on stage, and it was in Cornwall, Ontario, in La Maison. And it was with my band Isbister. And that's me and my brother and our friend who I first started playing music with. So when I first started playing music, I got a bass, my brother got a guitar, our friend got a drum kit, and we started as a trio. And that's how we perform.
And it's like all very different and very, how did you learn and with whom did you learn? And it's different schools of learning. For example, Joah, you coming back, you said your grandfather earlier was the one which you played at cocktails and everything. So was he the one that really brought you into music?
Well, he was a music teacher, and he worked as a professional musician. He had big bands and whatnot, but he had my uncle's drum kit that he left at my grandfather's house, and then while he was playing, I'd go and I just beat the crap out of the drums.
Yeah.
And then he kind of showed me, he's like, okay, if you're gonna play with me, maybe you should learn a few things. So I had an interest in it, and then knowing that they've already, had a career as a musician, I definitely picked their brains and wanted to learn from them. It was a big help for sure. Yeah, very fortunate to have that. It is cool because both of my grandfathers played in my hometown shows. My grandfather used to play the pizzeria in Alexandria, and all the old people back in my hometown, they always, I remember when your grandfather used to play. And then now I'm playing around the area, and they're like, oh, you're so-and-so's grandson. No way, apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I guess.
For you, Riley, you are self-taught.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So like, just think that music can be from different openings and different sources.
Yeah.
For you being self-taught, how was your experience? I'm most intrigued transitioning from hockey to music. That's what I want to know. How did you get into music after? Because you were playing in front of crowds, so I think it was at a stage where, and 17, you still have time. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I played hockey for my entire life. I was, I think, 3 years old when I first started. It was my entire life I was an athlete, a very serious athlete, and it was a big part of who I was and my personality. And I had nothing to do with music. Growing up, I had idols like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was huge for me. When I was like 9 or 10, I felt I had an entire outfit that was Michael Jackson. I had like the shoes and everything. I had the moonwalk down. I was Michael Jackson for a little bit. My dad only liked country westerns, so like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash. And my mom liked Elvis Presley. So there's a big influence of older music, and they both loved Supertramp, but neither of them were very musical. So we were not a musical family in any way. Music was enjoyable, but it wasn't important. And I had a lot of idols going forward, but it was when I started listening like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, and I was in high school, I started smoking weed, and that really, like, weed and music changed my life simultaneously, because in combination I was able to discover a new way to enjoy music. It wasn't the same anymore. It was altered, and it was enhanced in different ways. I had the ability to look at music without worrying about what I was doing later. And that was something I didn't have prior to it, because I was so focused on, I got to get to practice tomorrow. I was very scheduled, and smoking weed stopped that. It was like, hey, why don't you start living a little more in the moment. Again, in combination with that, my brother started playing guitar, and he was an athlete too. So to see him be able to do it, I was like, if he's able to do it, I can do it. So he taught me my first riff, which was a song by Khalil, Can't Go On Without You, and it's a finger-picking song on acoustic guitar. So it's a very pretty song. It's still, if I want to impress someone, it's one of the songs I would pull out because it's very gorgeous. And from there, I was playing bass, so I knew that I was capable. Getting up on stage was nothing. Like, I could get up, I still know I can get up in front of any crowd and just do what I do, you know, because it's if anything, they pump me up. You know, I'm used to the feeling of like an arena of people, you know, or really loud parents, you know, like they can be crazy loud. The arena's echo. So like I'm used to the sound of people just screaming at you, you know, and it's a good feeling. It makes being on stage easy.
You truly have this feeling with music.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to that for each one of you. And Mason, how was it for you? How did you learn music?
I didn't get to mention it, but it was actually out of spite at the beginning. My parents separated when I was about 10 at the time. And I remember spending a lot of time driving in the car with my dad because he went to live with his sister. And so like every other weekend, I'd have to drive there with my dad. And I remember just listening to Rock 107. And of course, you know, the songs that I love at the time, AC/DC and Crazy Train and all that stuff. And those were the first things that kind of tried to learn. But at some point, my friends, they were starting a band, and I didn't get to be a part of it because the only thing they knew I played was cowbell. I didn't get to play, and I was kind of told, like, you have no musical ability, so...
You can never have too much cowbell.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, there was already a cowbell player at the time. But anyways, so I decided, all right, I'm going to learn guitar. And then it just... I worked at it, and then eventually... I also found that I liked writing poetry. It ended up meeting each other when I was in, officially grade 10. I tried to write a song for the, if you know Shakespeare, The Tempest. I wrote a song for a presentation, and I guess that was the first time I played and sang in front of my peers, and did not know how to sing at that point. But surprisingly, it didn't turn out too bad. But after that, I decided to just start learning to sing and writing songs at the same time, just to see what like fit best and not have to like perfect somebody else's song. I'd rather it be something of my own.
I just love those little backstories. Playing at that pizza place, for me, it's amazing, you know, like your grandparents used to play there and now you're playing there, Joah. And for you, that feeling of already knowing what the crowd is like, but taking that step and being all honest about it, you know, like with how it helped you now to
From the young
music is really your jam, and your personal story as well, how you came to listen to AC/DC and Crazy Train all on those road trips. It's just inspiring, and that's, I think, is something where you take a lot of inspiration of, and also can inspire a lot of students to join your club, those who still feel, oh, maybe I can't play on stage, maybe I'm afraid of a crowd. And I think those stories who are humans and can just inspire the students to come and, hey, let me give this a try, let me join this club, you know, I want to join this club now.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to. Last jam night, there was 2 people that came on stage, and they just walked up to the mic and started singing, just no band. This one guy started singing Shape of You, Ed Sheeran, and then the crowd went nuts, like everyone was clapping, and he rocked it. It was awesome.
What's your relationship with music? What does music bring to you? Let's start with you, Mason, this time. Yeah.
All right. I'd like to say probably energy. When it's done best, I mean, just that feeling of like almost adrenaline or goosebumps for a second. And it doesn't come around too much, but it's just that, like, especially when you find a song that you really like, or a band that you really like, it's the best feeling. And, like, the best times would have been, like, I used to play hockey as well, not to the level that Riley made it to, but I remember distinctly, now this isn't rock, but it's Darude Sandstorm. I remember distinctly in Napanee, if you know where that is, just the next town over that way, kind of. They'd always play the soundtrack from NHL Slapshot. Like that, those were the songs that they'd play for the warm-ups and the buzzers. It's so long since I played hockey, I can't even remember. But I I remember the warm-up, you just hear Darude Sandstorm going, and you'd run out there, get out, and just start doing your warm-up, and it was just
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I can just picture it. You're
Yeah.
like pumped up. During sandstorms blasting, crowds cheering.
Yeah, NHL Slapshot was listen to that soundtrack. It's or play the game actually, but it's probably outdated at this point. But it was fun.
And how about you, Riley? What does the feeling of just music? What does it bring to you?
I would say, well, music does a few things for me. Music really calms me in a lot of ways. I would say music keeps me very level, and a lot of times I'll put on music at the end of the day to let my mind relax. You know, I'll put on something that has a lot of space to allow a little less congestion, because it gets really congested, you know, in the busyness of a day. So a lot of times I use it just to calm down, but I think like music for me, when I'm experiencing it, it feels like I'm going to a different place. It feels like I'm leaving my physical self, and I'm just going to I'm going upstairs. I'm going to my inner brain and just kind of connecting with something else. Especially something like Pink Floyd. When you listen to Pink Floyd through headphones, it just you feel it in your stomach, you feel it in your spine, you feel it in your heart, it's a real experience. It's not just music. It's an experience.
And how about you, Joa?
For me, it was just learning your instrument well enough so you can play it and get that feeling. When you begin to play with feeling, and then you begin to really learn how to express yourself on your instrument, and kind of just get in the groove of whatever the music that you're playing. And for me, I love playing with other people, especially. It's a different level of connecting with someone, especially at our program here at SLC. In my class, second year MDM, I'm the only Canadian. We have people from Korea, Japan, India, Colombia, Mexico. So we have people from all these different cultural backgrounds, but we're all musicians. So when we all get to play together, it's really interesting to see how the music from everyone's culture and coming together, and it's like it's really amazing to see and to play along with these people.
Playing with people for you is like an amazing experience. And I guess playing your genre, which is how do you like to call it, rock, metal? How do you love to call your style? Basically, band, playing as a band.
Playing as a band.
Playing as a band,
or even collective. A lot of times, people aren't even solid bands anymore. A lot of times it's just like my brother and I it's my brother and I, and then we just get other people to play with us. So we're almost like a collective now. Yeah. And genreizing is hard because a lot of times you go from rock to something sounding more folky or traditional bluesy, or even like I would love to experiment with something sounding very Caribbean, some with steel pans, some with like a really bright color, and that like it's very hard. It's a lot of times you slap a label like alternative. On January 24th, so in 3 days, my band Isbister is releasing 2 singles, one called Honey Boat and the other March of the Damned. Both written about experiences that my brother and I have had. And again, like I said, we used a bunch of different musicians for this, ranging from Hamilton to Montreal to Ottawa. And they're all people that we're close with, one being my cousin, who's an amazing singer from Montreal. And outside of that, Russ Pump, my band here in Kingston, which I recently formed with Isaac Heathcock and Liam Lambert.
It's a great name.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're planning gigs around Kingston as much as possible. In March, we're supposed to be playing a gig at that pub. We're gonna be releasing our first single, hopefully within the next month or two, called "The Greaser," and that's a song that I wrote.
A greaser.
It's semi about the basis.
Okay, can we get like a little bit about what it speaks or it is?
Well, it just tells a story about, I guess, someone who just maybe feels a bit outcasted, and doesn't really feel like they belong, even in situations they belong in. You know, just I guess just an inner anxiety, which creates a bit of an image of someone who is outcasted in a way. And it's really easy for me to write something like that, considering even when I look like I belong somewhere, I still feel like I don't a lot of times. And I feel like that's a very relatable theme for people. So it's I'll never say that songwriting is hard for me, because I have very relatable emotions that I know a lot of people deal with, you know.
And is like something like when, as a music club that you want to create, are these things which students can expect, like a bit of music writing, a bit of, you know, strumming, getting to know a bit of instrument, like, and is there a particular frequency you would love the students to group together and be with you as a club to in a particular place with frequency, like once a week or every 2 weeks?
Well, definitely. You mean like the once a week, like St. Larry's pub type thing?
St. Larry's type, and also like, you know,
like something outside of that.
Yeah, something outside of that also.
We've been talking about that a lot.
Yeah.
We want to get a lot. We don't want it just to be the pub night. We want it to be more, again, because that's a very high pressure scenario, being on a stage. If for most people. So if there's a scenario where you can be around musicians in a less high pressure scenario, that's what we're aiming towards.
I think the club is just basically just going to be a big band collective. So like the pub, the jam nights will be the events, and then hopefully we can get some like practice times where the club members get together, and if someone wants to learn a song, and they'll be like, oh, some musician would be, oh, okay, I know how to play the bass on that, or I know how to play drums, so then people can all go and jam.
If you're around me or most musicians, we tend to songwrite all the time. So like we'll just be playing with some chords, and we'll say, oh, you like that? Okay, stick with that. Now let's try and write a melody. And a lot of times, if you're around that environment, it just happens. You know, songwriting is can be very seamless. You know, it doesn't have to. It's not a high pressure thing at all. You know, a lot of times it's just words on papers, and then you make it work.
And for you, Mason, songwriting, like you said, you had a poetry background. How does it come to you, songwriting?
So I'll be playing something, and then I'll just kind of play around with it until I have something that I like. And then I'll just start singing, whether it be words or like the start of a story. It'll just kind of come out. So I'll have one line. I'll play it again, sing that line, and then sing another line. And then if I like, and then keep on doing that. Sometimes I can get past 2 lines. And sometimes I've even gotten a whole chorus just off the cuff, which is kind of like, that's always a cool thing. But usually it's more of just playing it, repetition, and then doing it again, and then just keeping that going and being sure to write it down. And not going too far, as fun as it can be. Because a few times I'd have the greatest chorus I think I've ever written, and then I lose it. Something happens, and then it's gone.
Write it down, record it. Don't lose it though, because we lose shit all the time.
I gotta look through my phone all the time and see stuff I recorded like 5 years, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about it.
Exactly. You forget. So even when you record it, you still forget about it. And then eventually you circle back to it, and it's like, wow, I remember that. And I remember the feeling I had when I made it too. Yeah. There's so much that goes behind it. You know, a riff can sound like, it doesn't sound like much maybe to someone who doesn't have a relationship with it. But when you're the one who made it and you were feeling something during it, like it really is something else. You know, you have a lot more context and emotion, and the point of it is to make the audience feel that as well, right? You want the audience to feel how you feel, or feel the emotion you want them to feel, right? So a lot of times we're catering to that extremely in our music creating.
And you wanted to speak about club events, I guess, Mason. Sorry for like going on.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's cool, like kind of. It's really interesting, like digging deep and actually like trying to figure out what actually happens when something happens. I guess analyzing. Anyways, getting back to it. as far as the club stuff goes, I've had a few cool ideas on what we can do. One of which is doing workshops. I've been in talks with a few different people to like do different things, so stay tuned for that. I don't think there'll be any charges for anything, just, you know, it'd be cool to just come on by if you're interested. Other things, I've had an idea to do an acoustic jam because the open mic has become more of like a performance night. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's actually better that way because it gets you that experience being on a stage, you have a crowd and all that. And it the feeling of doing a gig once a week, like a proper gig that, not proper, you know what I mean though? Like just having the audience and all that, it's great. And then being able to get that experience being, say you're not used to that, it's great. Like Sean, you should come one of these days just for fun. Give us a song.
I will. Come jam.
Yeah,
I will.
Honestly, like, and I say that to everybody. Just come on out. We're not judgmental.
Judgmental free. You will come. You will have a fun time, and you will learn. You will grow. And those amazing lads, they are just like super enthusiastic about this club. And I can tell you, like, since the creation, Brandon has been like, it's super amazing that we're going to have a club about music. And I think it will do great, having workshops again, acoustic. I'm looking forward to that also.
It's huge.
Probably I can finally sing a good Bruno Mars song in perfect key.
Absolutely.
That's my goal. If I join the club, that's what I want.
Yeah. I know how to play it, so we can.
That's it. Yeah. Well, I'll play bass and get the drums, and we're a band. It's a night. Yeah.
I just want to give a shout out to Brandon because if this is Brandon's brainchild here, so and he's super enthusiastic and super passionate about this project, and if it wasn't for him, he's the one who approached us and asked us to be a part of this project. So we wouldn't be here right now doing this podcast if it wasn't for Brandon, and there wouldn't be a club without Brandon.
Exactly.
There wouldn't be events at SLC without Brandon. So
he has been a highlight for me, very like a student which has been so much into giving. He's at 200%, giving that energy. Sometimes I ask myself, where does he find the time to do?
He's grinding,
to grind, to put all this together. I see him at the gym. I'm like, how is he at the gym? He was at St.Lawrence 30 seconds ago. I'm like, he's amazing. And big shout out. And thank you, Joao, for pushing that up. A big shout out to Brandon for like all those open mics, games night, trivia night, all those pub events which we witness now at St.Lawrence. I really want to give a try to a bit of vocals because I guess in terms of instrument I'm a bit like there's a lot of learnings to do. So I would love to start with some vocals to really get let's see, give it a try. In life is just give it a try.
You got the pop star look. You got the long hair.
That's it.
Man already.
I'm a salesman right now. I got the looks, but hey, need to deliver the vocals.
You got 50% of it.
And you can always start small. I mean, vocals seem easy sometimes, but there's a lot of eyes on you. And like when I first started, I'd be around people who are playing, and I'd be doing the tambourine, like Mason said, cowbell, like just being a part of it, being a part of like catching a rhythm, and you can connect without a lot of pretext. It's just you have to be able to really tune in.
Give me the tambourine. Probably
exactly.
Start with that.
It's one of the best instruments, I'd say.
I like the sound of the tambourine.
It's fun.
It's those instruments. People will say the guitar, the piano, the drums.
Overrated.
Oh no, lovely. But like those little.
So at least if you're a guitar player who's going on a solo for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or
I actually have one with me. I carry one around all the time.
It's just strapped with one. Yeah,
it's a foot
exactly.
It's a foot when I strap to my foot.
Of course. It is. That is actually a very good point. That's a very good point. Like you can do stuff like that, and you don't even need a band. That's the fun part about playing with other people, especially what we do. We're jamming. We jam so much. That's what this is. It's just a club of people who like to jam, I guess, and. You play with people from Korea, people from India, people from Russia, Ukraine, Hong Kong. We have a few people from Colombia actually, and again, a saxophonist. Like we have a beautiful pianist from Hong Kong, Ted.
Oh.
Ted is probably the best pianist I've ever heard. He's an amazing person, like a really, really great guy. And he's just one of the many musicians in our program. So we just have a great atmosphere, I'd say, for talent.
So speaking of like that's what it does, you know.
My turn.
Getting up on no, an idea just came in my head.
Please do.
So pretty much getting up on that stage and doing that, it really it's a real confidence booster, and it does get you out of that that state of like not really being able to communicate too much. At the same time, anyways, no, it's just a great thing to do, honestly. Like me, I was a bit introverted, you know, back in the day, but like just talking to people, communicating with other musicians about what they do or them asking you what you do, and just kind of that whole community aspect of all of it. It's fantastic. Like it almost feels like a family sometimes.
It's like, again, like, you know, emphasizing on that aspect, and I join you on that, and I really like that aspect of collaboration that you all have, and I think it's essential for musicians to grow, to collaborate with each other, because it keeps you getting creative more. You know, we can all be creative, but at some point our creativity hits a stone where like, how can I get more creative? And then just doing a collab with someone else, this is new to me.
It's huge.
Like I can learn from that.
Yeah.
And when you branch off being creative people, you can branch off so much and create something new. So I think collaboration is one of the best things.
And for me, blues music is kind of like the opportunity to cry. It's like an opportunity to really show your bare bones, to show your soft underbelly, you know, and in a lot of ways it exposes the hell out of you. You know, it really makes you feel isolated, or even just makes you feel like, you know, you're showing people some real emotion, or what troubles you. You know, even if you're not directly speaking about it, you're showing the emotion. And I couldn't do that confidently without doing that with a band. You know, like I can now, but at first I wouldn't have the confidence to get up in front of people with just an acoustic guitar and sing my heart. I did, and it was really difficult. But once I started doing it with a band, the pressure was off. You know, I felt like they were doing the same thing, you know, and we collectively were just crying, and it works. You know, it sounds amazing in a lot of ways.
Blues has been a genre which I've discovered like 2 years ago, recently. Yeah. Like, it's really like, for me, I just transcend another level, you know. It's
absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
Takes me, and one thing, it's pretty bullshit, but what I want to experience with blues one day, rainy night, warm lights, Cuban cigar, whiskey, and I just want to.
Porch.
Yep. Yeah. Front porch. That's the big thing. You got to be on some sort of porch. If you have
like mild rainy nights, not super raining, so just soft rain. You know, that cigar. Oh my god! I think it would look great. Like I love music at school, but I always visualize that scene. I don't know when I listen to blues. It's just get into your thoughts and
of course.
Like,
well, it's the tone of the sound as well. Like I play with banjo ukulele, which is like kind of like it sounds very much like a banjo. And when I play blues on it, or even on my acoustic guitar, you can really get that feeling of like sitting on a porch or a late night. You know, just you and just the quiet night. It's really incredible. It's something that you couldn't experience in any other way. It's a very unique thing.
Okay, so one thing which is very fascinating about all of you guys, you have different bands, new band coming up, new name, and Joah, you have been 5 years now with County Lads. Tell us about the creation of this beautiful country Celtic rock band.
Well, where I'm from, Glengarry County, it's very much Scottish community, very East Coast, Irish, Celtic. You know, it's big part of our culture. So I think the two brothers in my band, Alec and Hamish, that's a huge part of their culture. They're both from Scottish heritage, so they started playing classic Celtic songs, traditional folk songs in bars when they were like 12 years old. And then they said, then they started a band with a banjo player and my friend who's on bass. Then the banjo player quit, and then my friend said, these guys need a drummer. So I just joined, and been with them ever since.
And how has it been, like those 5 years? You have been touring a lot with them. How is touring? That's one thing which I always long to ask. Like you hear those big interviews of like super global brands, but global bands. But like, how about you? Like being a local lads, as we say. So how is it touring as local lads?
Well,
around the country.
We were just getting every gig we could get to start off, and we play anywhere. So we'd spend a lot of time on the road. We'd bring the trailer if we had to, if we needed to sleep anywhere. We'd sleep at someone's house if anyone offered hospitality. But we played a show one time in New Brunswick, and there were the four of us, and then the lead singer and the fiddle player's father, 5 of us in the pickup truck, and we show up, and there was a huge baseball tournament in the town that we were playing in. None of the hotels were booked. So we were all looking at each other and was like, okay, who got the hotel room? And we all looked at each other. So we slept in the Walmart parking lot for that night. And then we had to drive 16 hours back and play another show. And then, so a lot of times, we're trying to make it. It's the grind.
So, but I would like to know what drives you to do all this touring, like it's almost YOLO. Yeah. Let's do it.
That's what it is. Every show is different. Yeah. We just want to go out and see places. No matter what it is, even if people are like, oh yeah, we're having this party at this bar in this tiny town 5 hours away. We heard about you guys. We saw a video, and we'd love to have you guys down. And we're game. We're just like, okay, let's do it. It's more about it's always an adventure. It's less about showing up and playing and it's all for the music, for the money. No, it's more about the experience, being on the road with the band and just having a good time, seeing new places. That's really what it's about, I think.
Like the part of traveling and touring and playing music is really one of the things which I think, traveling is something amazing to me. I always I never want to have a house. If I could, I would just travel around the world endlessly till my last breath. That's the dream.
Yeah.
But I just love that you're able to experience it and that you see the beautiful picture of it. It's like, even if it's a lot of grind and some days might be but you enjoy it, 5 hours away, you go, you play.
And especially as a drummer, I should have been the guitar player and it's 3 a.m. and you're at a bar and you got 5 hours of road ahead of you. The last thing you want to do is pack up a drum set.
Drum kits suck.
But then again, because I'm the drummer, I take more time to pack up, so I let the rest of the band take care of the sound system. So I think
it all balances out. Yeah, there's no way they're standing there looking at them packing up.
I'll take my time.
Exactly.
Okay, tell us about this very beautiful, boring part, about the setting up and the packing up. How is it like touring and doing all those things by yourself? You don't have a crew.
No, so, we kind of learned.
Obviously.
We definitely learned as we go how to work our sound. Like every show we'd play, we set up $100 aside and then we had like a joint, money set aside for the band to buy better equipment. So we, over time we saved up and bought better, nicer equipment. And there has been a few times, when you're playing in front of huge crowds and you have your own system and then people are like drunk and then spill beer all over a speaker and then you just want to smash a guitar on their head.
Oh yeah.
It's very frustrating, but definitely have some, they were definitely road worn for sure. They got some mileage on them. We've used them a lot. Even my drums, all our equipment is pretty much worn out.
Well, it tells stories. Do you keep them even if like a history, like Like even if one day it goes like it's completely broken, will you keep it, or just will you? Do you have an emotional attachment to all those?
Drum heads. I've made like drum heads, and I drew the logo of our band with a Sharpie. So if those ever get broken or whatever, I've sold some. Like people want to, or I just kept some. I have one hanging in my room here. I have one back home. Or guitars too. I always, as a musician, you know, you always buy. You know, it's not a cheap hobby to be a musician.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a guitarist, I'm sure you're always going to want to buy. Like Mason, how many guitars do you have?
I couldn't even tell you at this point.
You just bought a double neck Gibson, right?
Or Epiphone.
Epiphone.
Yeah.
See, like we just, no matter, we're never satisfied. We always need to have more toys.
Pedals, amps, because it all changes the sound. So like every little change you make, even just changing an amp, it's a huge difference. But it's so costly. And like even a guitar amp, like my guitar amp is 76 pounds. So on its own, that's one trip, and then the rest of my equipment comes after if I'm doing that alone. That's not easy. That's not a simple thing to bring in and out of places. But at the same time, you kind of need to cater to that. You need to have stuff that is portable, and you have to make things portable without breaking everything, setting up and tearing down every time, which is easy. Yeah.
But I don't think we've played long enough where it's not like Willie Nelson and his guitar trigger where that thing is just
wilting away.
That thing is, he's keeping it alive as long as he can. I don't think anything is at that point yet, but maybe down the road, you know, if everything still works.
I still have my first acoustic guitar. Yeah. And I plan on keeping it forever. So I know one day it will be my trigger. Like it will just be falling apart from decades of usage. Unless it gets smashed by then. I hope it doesn't. But it's easy, you know, like even just putting it on a stand, you could walk away from it and it could get nicked or fall or whatever. They're very delicate.
I dropped my Gibson last night.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I was recording in the studio. And it was late at that point, and I saw like a shadow. So I was like, oh, that's the time. The security guy came by. And so I got up and to start like moving stuff, and it came off the strap. I usually have strap locks, and I didn't at this point. I saved it with my foot, but it like my tuner on the headstock is all bent now, and it's like,
that's a bummer.
Yeah, that's an expensive guitar.
Bummer.
Gibsons are nice. They're that's hard to hear. Sorry to hear that, Mason.
Yeah, it was probably the most stress I've ever been through in my life.
Yeah.
3 seconds.
Well, it could have been worse, I guess.
Yeah, we all definitely could have been worse.
Actually, my first electric guitar had it a lot worse than that one. But yeah, that's why you don't put it on a chair, standing up like this. Yeah. That was on my first gig. But
we played with a band one time. Sorry, I got this other story. No. So speaking of sound equipment, they were playing at a wedding, and they stored all this equipment down a hill, and all the guys would go pee on this hill, and throughout the night there was like hundreds of people, so they kept peeing on this hill, and their equipment got damaged from the pee.
From the urine,
Too much
wetness.
Now that would be.
That's a life changer, though. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. No. We care about our gear a lot, and we have to because it's expensive, and to replace stuff would be really difficult. You know, constantly, especially an expensive, nice guitar. Or amplifiers getting ruined by urine, which is just like worst case scenario, right? Worst case scenario. Doesn't get much worse than that.
Well, taking a piss, you know.
Think about where you're pissing next time. Yeah.
What are things coming up to that? What are the things like? I know musicians like it's like embracing the crowd, you know.
Yeah.
But what are the pet peeves you have that people do at shows that you're playing and you're like, look at that idiot. What is like, are there things which irritates you, like when some things which crowd does? I know for DJs it's like, never I'll say DJ, hey, play that music, play that track after that track, or things like that.
But clearly, if you're doing some like soft acoustic, something like gentle or something more intimate, and then you have like a giant table of people laughing, that doesn't really collide well.
Someone yells "Freebird,"
or like requesting songs. That's never great.
It's always...
But if you're a loud rock band, or if you're any type of amplified band, for the most part, you can drown out the sound of people. So that's not much of an issue. If someone were to come up, and I've seen this a lot on videos, if someone were to like grab your legs or something while you're on stage, definitely not cool. Because you can just like pull someone out from under them, especially, musicians typically like are really focused on what they're doing. So if you do anything to them while they're in that vulnerable state, they're just going to get knocked out or wrecked, it's scary, because if you were in kind of a rougher place or a very congested stage front, and people were grabbing at you or throwing something or anything like that, you really are in a dangerous state. My eyes are closed, or half the time I'm singing, 75% of the time I'm singing. So I would get knocked out by anything. I wouldn't even be able to duck.
Anyone could just go up and pants you.
Yeah. I watched a video of a guy playing acoustic guitar, and someone came up and grabbed him by like just under the knees and just swept his legs.
Oh.
And he like ate it. And that's the worst fear, right? Yeah. Like you would really have to be playing something to aggravate that, or again, drunkenness. You're playing, as musicians, we're playing in places where people are super drunk, so that cannot, sometimes it, like Joah said, spilling beer. I've also seen people like taking shoes off musicians. Like that was a weird one. I saw that at the Toucan actually in Kingston. Definitely a weird experience. Yeah. The crowd was just obsessed with the guy's feet for some reason. Took both his shoes off, took his socks off. He was playing guitar while they were doing it. It was a really weird thing. But I would say that's the closest I'd get to a pet peeve. Yeah, is like maybe a crowd getting obsessed with my feet. Yeah. Not cool.
A foot fetish club.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time and place, right? It's definitely not while you're on stage.
Yeah.
When you perform in front of a crowd, you feed off the energy just as much as they feed off of yours. Mm-hmm. So, if we go to a show and there's 1,000 people and everyone's just like jumping and dancing and they're really into it, and then that we feed off of that energy, and then we're having that's when a gig doesn't feel like a gig. You're up there and you do what you love. Yeah. But then there's times like we'll play a show like that, and then we come back and we play another show and it's dead and there's no one, and people are just there and they're staring at you and there's no energy, and then that becomes really hard to keep it lively and keep it upbeat and really enjoy what you're doing. But then you have stuff like that, and then they'll come up to you afterwards and be like, oh, that was amazing, and you're like, oh, well, I'm glad you looked pissed, but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But there's different, every gig is different. You never know what if there's going to be a good time, if it's going to be dead, or you just got to be super energetic, and you got to give that same energy to every show. Sometimes it's harder than the other, but that's just what it is.
And Mason?
I'd like to say probably this is more like stage placement, especially like it all depends on the venue, but like if you have a place where you're accessible to the crowd, that's always the best because you can feed off the audience. Like some different farmers markets that I've played over time, and they just kind of put you. I mean, I love playing farm. Like again, it's fun, but there are some situations where there's no crowd anywhere near you, and you're just kind of there, and it's kind of tricky sometimes, but.
Yeah, and you speak like a lot of instrument, like you're very. I hear Gibson, I hear all those terms. Like speaking of instruments, like give us a very quick basic breakdown. Like what are your favorite instruments, and why do you have a specific liking to that instrument.
A lot of basses for some weird reason. I love playing the bass, but some cheap ones, so stuff that I can beat up and just not have one that's really nice that I have to worry about. I do have a nice guitar, Fender Strat, standard, and I have an acoustic. And as a drummer, I think my drums are my pride and joy for sure, because they're the ones I use the most for shows. I gotta make sure I always clean them, I always tune them up, I always, like a nice car, you know.
Of course.
Polish it, make sure everything's,
Of course.
It's a baby.
fine tuned, you know.
Literally. Babies, yeah.
Riley?
Well, I still have the same acoustic that I originally got. So that is my ride or die, and that's what I used 80% of the day. So if I were to tally up all the time I'll spend on music today, most of it will be acoustic. I'll spend a lot of time electric with other people, but on my own I spend most of the time on that acoustic. So the guy who sold that to me, he couldn't play anymore because his fingers were really sore, and he changed my life, and he doesn't really know it. And it's amazing to keep that kind of legacy alive, because he was a hippie, and that it was welcoming. It was very it was good. I also have a Stratocaster, which I love. It's my ride or die for the electric side. I take a lot of inspiration from Rory Gallagher, who uses a Stratocaster, as well as David Gilmour. David Gilmour is a big one for me. Pink Floyd.
He played like he had a style of playing, David Gilmour, which is like he would grab it in so like
he had like a lot of fat bends. He would also play on a lap guitar, what would you call that? Steel guitar, yeah. That, and again, he was extremely talented. They both were. But outside of that, I have a Squire jazz bass. And again, I said the banjo lele. The banjo lele was given to me as a gift. I would never have gotten it for myself. At the time, I didn't even know what it was. But I had worked with a friend in the Rocky Mountains in Banff, and he was a chef, and he was going back to France, and he couldn't bring the instrument with him, so he gave it to me. And to this day, I'm still writing music with it, playing music with it, and it's become a big part of my arsenal. Another person who probably doesn't realize how much they've affected me in a positive way.
And for you, Mason?
So there, again, it's funny, Stratocaster. I have to say my ride or die a year ago would have been my Stratocaster. And it probably still is. I've had it for years and years and years at this point. But I've just been obsessed with my SG, which is the guitar that I dropped yesterday.
I was gonna say the one that you dropped.
Yeah. So that's I've just been sitting here, like, since I mentioned that, all I've been thinking is, shoot, you know what, that didn't look quite right. Like the neck, I feel it has a dip now in the middle, which like so yeah, I got the SG, I've got the Strat, I have a Gretsch that I like. It's a really nice looking guitar. It sounds nice as well, but of course I have the double neck. I have, like, it's funny, I'm sure we've all kind of been through this at different points, playing more electric than acoustic, or more acoustic than electric, and it's just one of those things that happens. You know, it really depends on like what kind of gigs and whatever you're playing at the time is. But we got a Taylor, which I really saved up for. I've almost got it paid off now, but that's been my go-to guitar for the past year, and that's every gig that I've played has been with that. And I have to say it's taken a little bit of damage, but not too much.
And you have a cowbell.
And I have a cowbell. Yeah. And 2 triangles.
The triangles are good. I love triangles. Like, it's part of my musical culture from my island. Like, triangles, and we have 2 tribal instruments which we use.
Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm curious about that as well.
I am from Mauritius Island.
Oh wow!
It's a small island near the southeast coast of Africa. Wow. It's close to Madagascar. That's where it is. So we have our own music genre. It's called the Sega, It's very local. It sticks to our island,
Amazing.
and we do have like three main instruments in the typical Sega, like the tribal one, which is like a triangle. We have one called Ravan. It's sort of a drum, but it's made with. It was originally made with goat skin and then wrapped on string of bamboos in a circle shape. Then it would be knitted, and then you would have to put it in the sun for it to have a resounding sound. And you have one which is called Maravan. It
Wow.
makes sand sounds.
Yeah.
So it kind of fits the island of us. So you can hear the sand shaking, the drums here, and the triangle. So it's
Amazing.
always around the fireplace where we'd sing with rum, obviously. And that's how, and it has evolved with time. It has mixed up with a lot of reggaetons as well. So we call it Sege. That's another variation of our music. We have Sege, and more like the keyboard has come into it. Over the guitar has come into it. So there are more variations in modern Sega, but the three main ingredients, three main instruments were those. So yeah, that's it.
Are there any stringed instruments traditionally played, or is it just vocal and percussion? Because those are like three percussion instruments.
It's just vocal and percussion.
Yeah, that's what I figured. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, because a lot comes from that. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of what we do comes from music that is just vocal and percussion, and now we play chords over it to make it sound even better.
I'm gonna look that up after Sege.
Yeah,
Sega.
yeah, I'm very
Sega?
excited. I'm very
Sega
curious.
as well. Type typic Sega typic, because this is so if you want to get an original, like to the origin, Tifrea is like among the 60s. It has really that tribal aspect of Sega.
Yeah.
And then you have a modern times, you will get a lot of it. So yeah, so much to do.
Amazing.
And you will discover something amazing, I'm sure.
Anytime you dip into a different culture, different sound, there's infinite things you can take from it. And whether we realize it or not, if I go home and listen to music of any different culture, I'm going to take little bits and pieces of it that I like and put it into my own sound. So that's why even when you ask genre, it's like, it's hard to genreize because I'm stealing from everyone. I'm taking stuff from stuff that you wouldn't expect, you know, and then mixing it with more rock and blues and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, and one thing which I want to transition to is more like your program into the third part of the show. Like you're all into the music and
digital media. Yes,
music and digital media.
Yeah.
So all three of you, different years, I guess.
I'm second year, and they're both first year.
First years. And why this program? You're all talented musicians, and I always say, what do you learn from this program? Like, why do musicians who are already talented, why join music and digital media program?
Well, I instantly I started jamming right away when I got to the program, and a big part of this was I knew I was going to be meeting other musicians. I was going to be in a classroom full of people who were really talented at what they do, and that's what I'm looking for. So as I've said, I already created a band called Rust Pump, and that's with 2 people from the class. So this class already, I knew going into it I'd form a band, but it has done that for me. Along with that, which is that's one thing that like you can't find that other places. It was I knew going in that I would find a band, which is amazing. The other thing is the course offers a lot of things that you would have a hard time figuring out on your own, like using DAWs for music, so like Logic Pro or GarageBand and stuff like that, using it in a professional sense, learning how to record video and audio, getting into the real nitty-gritty of music and also music theory. So I knew in a lot of ways it'd make me a better musician, and I would also be able to be more resourceful with my time. Instead of spending all the time trying to figure out how to use something, I already know how to do it, so I can just focus more on the creativity and the overall plan of things rather than how to do it. So this course just lubricates things, makes it easier to be a thriving musician.
And how about you, Mason?
Well, it was interesting how I found it, and I'm actually kind of glad that I did when I did, rather than go a year earlier, just because of COVID, unfortunately. I feel kind of bad for Joah, because his first year kind of had you had a lockdown, didn't you?
Yeah, but I gotta say the second years when I was in first year, they completely had their first year online, so I consider myself lucky.
Ooh.
Yeah.
To be able
That
to go
stinks.
to school.
Yeah, this would not be a good program online. You would get nothing from it. Like it's so in person. It's so
It's so in person. Like, I don't know some programs how they do it online, but like in person will always remain.
You're getting robbed. You're getting robbed if you're doing this online.
But so when I found it, it was actually September. Like at the end of September, I was doing like a lap year kind of thing, and I was taking a media class, like where like I made a short film and did all that stuff. It's horrible, so you're not gonna see it.
Where can I find it?
Yeah, exactly. The back room, I guess. But anyways, yeah. So I was kind of stuck on, like, everyone would say, oh, you got to do the trades, that's what you have to do. That's where you'll make money and all that stuff. And I was sitting there, and everything that I was looking at just did not make me feel anything. If that makes sense. And then I found this, and it was music, and it was the media stuff. So I was like, whoa, now hold up, that could that's a good opportunity.
Yeah.
And then I looked through it more and more, and I need to do this. This is what I have to do.
Yeah.
So literally, within days, I reached out to Mark, our program coordinator, and he told me what I needed to do this. And you have to do this. You have to get an equivalency with grade 6 conservatory, I think. And we had to do it through this online school that's run out of Britain.
Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Edinburgh, yeah.
Edinburgh, yeah. That's
And it was interesting. Like me, I've found a lot of interest in how music theory works and all that. I'm not really as big on the written stuff, but over the year I've come to enjoy it. But I'll tell you, it was a pain. Like the first 2 weeks, they're easy. I was fine. Week 3, brought it up. Week 4, and then week 5 was just crazy. But yeah, so we did that, and then I applied, and then somehow I got in. And so far, it's been more than anything I could have imagined, I guess. The creativity, like where I was as a musician, even in August, before the program started, like personally, I feel I've gotten very far, just through like developing my ear. Like now you could play me anything, and I could most likely be able to break it down and just play it from ear, which is like, I didn't think I'd be doing that. I thought I was going to be the guy who's like, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to develop that. But yeah, no, I've just learned a lot. I jammed a lot, written a lot, and it's really fun.
For you, Joao, being a member of 5 years of a band and coming to college.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to be in Kingston, first of all. Like I didn't, and then I just wanted to find an opportunity here. My friends all lived in a house. My friends from high school, they live. We got a house downtown, and I was like, oh, okay, they need a 4th roommate. I'd love to go live with my friends. My girlfriend goes to Queens here, so I'd be close to my girlfriend. So I just looked to see what was around, and I saw music and digital media, and I was like, oh my God. So then I applied right away. I just saw the music part, and then I was like, okay, digital media, whatever. But the digital media part became a part that I didn't think I would enjoy as much. I wasn't expecting to be into filmmaking as much as I was. I didn't really care about that stuff. I was more into the music, but there's so many open doors in this program that you're able to experience, and that's something that that it's not everywhere where you can have that opportunity. And the profs we have are amazing. So Josh Lyon, he's our videography class, our professor, and he's a filmmaker, very talented. He does a lot of work around Kingston. Super talented guy. We also have Mike Castles, who does recording and sound design classes. He's also a super talented musician. He's a drummer as well, so he teaches us how to work with all the music software. We also had John Stewart, who teaches the music theory and runs the music workshops. He's a sax player, also a very talented musician. So all our teachers, Mark Bergen, program coordinator, shout out to Mark.
Missing Ryan.
Was that
Ryan?
Oh, I didn't have Ryan last year.
Okay. Ryan's huge for us. Ryan taught me piano. Ryan taught me most of the music theory I know as of right now.
So all our teachers are very accomplished in the work that they do, and they're all super talented, and they're great mentors and great people to have as teachers.
And those are amazing reasons. Like, why, if I were a musician, why would I come? And now I know why. Like, I see.
Yeah, it makes you a better musician. The professors are amazing musicians, which you learn from, right? So you couldn't not benefit from them as long as you're attentive and you're there. You know?
And we are almost at the end of our podcast recording today. It's amazing having such wonderful conversation around music. So I would like to know, like, is there one last message you would like to, or give a shout out to someone, or something you wanted to say to students? Anything. Yeah.
Join the club. That's for sure. I actually said it with that same tone. On the stage the other day, but no, join the club. It's going to be great. There are going to be some benefits for members of the club that I don't know if we've been cleared to say anything yet, so we're not going to say it now, but join the club and you can find out. Other things like I released a song last year. If you want to look it up, it's called Forsaken. Just put Forsaken Mason because I was not smart. Didn't realize Forsaken's a movie, and it's like 20 other songs. So that's a bit of poor marketing there. That's why I'm here, to realize, hey, there's a way to do business that's not smart. But if you want to look that up. And then I'm working on recording a bunch of my songs, which will hopefully be out sometime relatively soon.
And for you, Joao?
Oh, I just want to point out that we have so many great resources here at SLC and so many opportunities, and I think with this club and with the pub we just want to make something happen, create a real sense of community, make the best use of our resources, and just get everyone together and get something going. I think this club and what SLC and what Brandon is doing is going to be an amazing opportunity, and I enjoy it. I encourage everyone to come on out and be a part of it and come to St. Larry's.
Yeah,
of course. I just want to say thank you again for having us on the podcast. It's amazing for us to be able to voice some of the behind the scenes behind our rough exteriors or our musician outers. We're just people who are who are around music, and we care a lot about it, so it's amazing to get to vent about it. Is Bister is my band. You can follow us on Instagram or listen to us on any platform, and we're going to release music in 3 days, 2 singles, and Rust Pump is my other band. You can follow us on Instagram, and we're local to Kingston.
And for all the links for the bands, I'll put them in the description below. And also, if you're listening on Spotify, it's in the title. You have all links to their bands, to their respective channels. Instagram, you have Instagram of music and digital media, St. Larry's also. So keep in touch, follow, and any events, and also you're most welcome to join, keep track of their latest update, their musical breakthrough, their progress. So stay tuned. They produce great music, and join the club. I'm going to join the club, and let's see if I can channel my inner Bruno Mars. So that's what we're going to do. And thank you again for being such amazing guests again. Thank you again I've learned so much in terms of music just by being with you. The behind the scene of creating a band, the touring, what goes into. touring Joao. For you also, Mason, just starting your career, always being very curious, like the silent force, always doing stuff, and it's amazing. And for you as well, transitioning from hockey to music, amazing. I've learned a lot, and I look forward to enjoy your club when I do in February. I will have a lot of time
Yeah, of course.
till March, May. So I'm
Awesome.
looking forward to join that club. And thank you again to everyone watching this episode of the Voice Podcast. Again, it's every Tuesday. You get new episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So thank you for watching again. And again, have an amazing week at SLC. Thank you. Goodbye.